Hey, this is Adam with another episode of Behind the Stone, your e-commerce podcast. I'm here today with Steve Maly from Maly Marketing. He's one of the smartest digital marketers that I know, and I'm looking forward to getting him to reveal all of his secrets. Steve, why don't you go ahead and intro, a little background on yourself. How'd you get into marketing? What's that journey look like, and where are you guys at now?
Yeah, it was
Brag about yourself a little.
So we got into it 17 years ago at this point in time. So my education in school was marketing. My work experience prior was in marketing. Like I took a marketing class in 8th grade, fell in love with it. I'm like, this is exactly what I'm going to do. Well, what the plan was is I was going to go work for an agency for 5, 6, 7 years after I graduated and then break up on my own. And it was one of those things, like I had some job offers, but it seemed like just so cubicle based, which is not in that right frame of mind at all. And at the time I was doing some video production work, some virtual tour work, that type of stuff, some marketing. And I had some friends who were like, dude, just go out now. And my mentality was like, the most money I ever made in college was 12 grand. And I'm like, dude, if I make more than $12,000 next year, it's more money I've ever made in my life. So I gave up a salary of 60,000 or 80,000 and kind of dove in. So did that right off the bat.
17 years ago, 60 or 80,000, that's a good chunk of change.
Well, I didn't have a point of reference. Again, never made that cash, so didn't really know. And so when I went off my own, the first year of business, I made 15,000, like gross revenue. And at that point in time, I didn't even know what the hell gross revenue was. I had no clue what a profit and loss was, any of that crap. And so kind of explored that for about 3 or 4 years, got my feet wet, if you will, and then really transitioned into the full-fledged strategy, positioning, messaging, and then media buying for our clients really over the last 12, 13 years, I'd say.
And so what does that look like now? What are you guys best in class at? What's the team looking like? And what's kind of everything that you encompass?
Yeah, so we've built up a team to about 12 people here right now, trying to hire 2 additional employees, which this market trying to hire. So that's a whole nother podcast.
Interesting. Yeah, we can talk about agency owner venting about that.
For sure. So the big thing, the market we take a look at, about half of our business is Facebook and Google. So it's the online components, and we've done a lot of work, been blessed to help companies really kind of scale and grow. Help them hit the New York Times bestsellers list, help them appear on Shark Tank, or help them monetize once they've been on Shark Tank or New York Times bestsellers list.
Nice.
So really cool, interesting things on that side. The other side, more traditional. So that could be TV, billboards, radio, all those types of things. And it's working with clients that, generally speaking, spending at least 15 to 20,000 a month in ad spend right now. Okay. Sometimes just one channel. Maybe they're just doing Facebook and it's time to diversify. And so we work with them on figuring out what is your position in the marketplace, how are you distinctive, not just different, but you truly have to be distinctive. And then what's the best media to reach out. And so then we handle all the media buying for our clients, the messaging, the executions, all that type of stuff.
So I heard you say different versus distinctive. Well, go in on that. What does that mean?
Yeah, this is interesting. It's about almost exactly 2 years ago is that my creative director does deep dives into a bunch of academic studies, mainly because academic isn't always as tilted as public studies. Best example is there's studies out there that show that smoking is good for you. Well, they were sponsored by Philip Morris, so obviously it's good for you. So he came across this academic study. It was based out of Australia, and it took a look at companies worldwide. Because in marketing, they always talk about you got to be different, got to be different, got to be different. Well, they took a look at all these companies worldwide, and they realized 94% of all companies are the same. Little variances, little tweaks, but 94% the same. The other 6% is more like Apple, Tesla, things along those lines. And so once you figure that out, it's not about being different. It's literally distinctive. What can I do to get you to stop, scrolling, to notice a billboard, to flip a magazine and stop on that? Because once you become distinctive and you get them to stop, then you can talk in how you feel like you're different. But you have to be distinctive enough first to get them to stop. And so that's what we always look at on our side of it. It's like, what can we do to make you distinctive, get people to stop whatever the hell they're doing, to pay attention to it, and it allows you to be able to tell your story a little bit deeper.
Awesome. I love it. Now, let's circle that around to, how can we add value to our community, to our whoever's watching this right now? We're assuming they are a challenger brand who has, gotten over the hump and they have proven product market fit somehow, whether it's through influencers, through Facebook limited spends, through YouTube limited spend, some channel, they've gotten some success on it. Now they're sitting here and they realize they're sitting on this gold mine. You know, what's their next move? What are their next couple of moves, and what would you advise them to do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I love the challenger side of it because we did a deep dive for ourselves just this summer on the marketing side. And that term kept on popping up, this challenger brands, growth minded. We need to get more. So
so much more fun to work with, right? It's
100%. 100%.
They move a lot faster too.
Yep. So here 10 days ago or so, Facebook got shut down for 6 hours, 8 hours. And so it's one of those things, a lot of times when people are just focusing on one channel, that was a huge wake up call for them. It's like, holy, like literally we had clients that lost $20,000, $30,000 from that outage compared to what they would typically make. And so that was kind of a big eye opener for some of our clients. So we talk about a lot of times in those challenger brands as they're growing and as they're trying to take that next step. Take a look at omnichannel. Take a look at some other opportunities offline. Now, still have the online foundation. And we always talk about, if you're a good e-commerce brand, Amazon, because obviously you have a ton of buyers on Amazon. Service brands is like go on Google and make sure that you have a solid foundation on Google. Facebook ads and Instagram ads can help really play into that as well. But what can you do offline to help supplement that? So we take a look at TV. Like this is super interesting. Is TV buys.
And I hear TV, I'm like, oh, that's super expensive.
Exactly.
First thing.
So right now on Facebook, the CPM cost to reach 1,000 people has skyrocketed a ton over the last year. And it's even been that much more over the last 6 months. At times, CPMs on Facebook, $40, $60, $70, pretty easily. TV CPM right now on cable TV, you're looking at $8 CPMs, $9 CPMs. If you want to do streaming through like Hulu or like Roku or Apple TV, you're talking about $25 to $30. So at times it's 7 to 8 times cheaper, especially if you're doing cable, to hit people that way than it is online. And what we always go ahead.
Is that super high top of funnel brand awareness, or is this? I mean, if you're doing an outdoor item and you're advertising to a hunting channel, is that pretty targeted specific, or where would you put it on that awareness funnel?
Top to sometimes middle. So a lot of times when we take a look at it, when we make these buys, we do a hunting channel, the HGTV, Discovery Channel, Travel Channel, those type of things. If we're going after conservatives, we just advertise directly on Fox News. So that way you're in front of the audience again and again and again and again. And so the big play generally is more of an awareness thing. But we see on average is once you introduce one more channel. So we're already running online. So let's just introduce TV in this analogy. Is anytime you enter in a new channel, you'll see about a 30% growth in regards to people going to Google to find out that much more about you, 30 to 35%. What we typically see too is your costs online tend to drop anywhere between 20% and 30%. You're not making any more changes here. You're just simply introducing another channel. Part of the reason behind that is, the whole theory is called costly signaling. But basically what it comes down to is people know the TV is expensive. They believe it's a hell lot more expensive than reality, but they know it's super expensive. So if I see a TV ad now, along with your online ads, like, holy cow, you must be legit. Exactly. You've been around a long time. Like people make all these assumptions because now I've seen you in the traditional world. And it's like, all right, these people have been around, they will be around.
Interesting. Now, what's that? How could someone dip their toe into TV? Is that even a possibility, or what's that kind of minimum investment or time or resource on that?
So a lot of times when we talk about baselines on Facebook, it's spend $5,000. Let's get baselines. Let's figure out where things are at. You can do a TV buy for really about $5,000 and get baselines from that as well.
Same now, creative. Take or tweaked.
It needs to fit native TV, because at times, we've all seen videos on Facebook that it's literally somebody like this shooting something. Like that's not gonna fit. Like it has to be able to fit TV itself. But you don't have to go crazy budget wise. You can get a bunch of stock video and things like that and kind of put it together. So it doesn't have to be crazy whatsoever. The one difference is Facebook, I can spend $5,000 over the next, let's just call it 5 days. Data. For TV, it's $5,000 over the next 30 days, 45 days, 60 days. So it's just a little bit.
Why is that taking so long to get time till data?
Basically what it comes down to is the number of frequencies You want to be able to hit 2 to 3 times. People, they average 2 to 3 times on the frequency for TV, and it just takes a little bit longer where people are at. You can become more aggressive, but also it's tough where, like, if I spend it in Facebook in 5 days and I try to spend the same amount on TV in 5 days, it's not always comparing apples to apples. That's why we want to have a little bit of a longer window to see what kind of impact it makes, not only with your online ads, but your search results, potentially your conversion results.
So you're looking, you're monitoring, you want to see what it does to the rest of your channels. You want to see what it does to your Google Analytics, to, you know, everything else. And let's say it's looking good. You know, the numbers pencil out and you're seeing an increase above what you would normally. You know, how easy is it to hit the gas on it? Can you 10x, can you 100x the spend on that, assuming the numbers hold?
Yep. So a lot of times when we start off, we take a look at certain geographical areas. Sometimes it's zip codes even. Like we had a conversation with a guy here this morning. He wanted to take a look at Greenville, South Carolina, and wanted to take a look at Tampa Bay, Florida.
Just randomly? Just why those areas?
He's in the CBD space, and they already have some retail centers in those spaces, and they seem to be kind of growing.
Nice.
And so he also does a bunch of stuff in California. Well, California's media market is pretty damn expensive. Greenville, South Carolina, relatively speaking, isn't that expensive. So let's do testing in Greenville. Let's figure out what's kind of working and messaging and all that. Yep. And then let's go to the expensive market.
Let's say you're in a few retailers. Could you use TV combined with Facebook to drive people into those stores? Have you seen that happen?
Yeah, so we've done that numerous times. Sometimes we'll take that final, let's call it 5 seconds of the commercial, and put up that retailer. Hey, buy our product at XYZ. Same thing with billboards, is we'll have co-sponsorships on billboards and radio ads. So as an as a business owner, some of my costs get saved. And then ideally we send a bunch of foot traffic into those stores, and those stores obviously have data, and so they'll let you know what does that increase look like, what does that really kind of been since you've been running commercials.
And is this like a self-service platform? Do they need to go through an agency like you if they want to do this TV thing? How does that work?
That's a good question. Right now, got to go through us. One thing we're trying to figure out, think through, like, is there a do-it-yourself type of package? Like, I can give education around, hey, if you are going to do some online or some traditional media buys, here's some things to kind of consider.
2021, who would have thought you'd be doing courses on TV advertising?
Right. It's like the old joke is David Ogilvy, the famous marketer. He never had a fucking pixel to optimize for, and he made his companies billions of dollars. Yeah. Like, it's like the more things change, the more they kind of stay the same. Or
good copy, good offers, product market fit.
Exactly.
And so you think this pixel then was a temporary blip for marketers, and we're talking, and it seems like it's going away in every single channel, or at least going to be hampered. So this was just like a golden age of internet marketing that now we're.
I really do think that maybe it won't go away 100%, but like the whole quote unquote clarity we used to have just won't be there. And it forces us to be better marketers. And honestly, on the flip side of it, it forces us to be better business owners with the whole thing as well.
So then what's a good way to get that avatar? Let's say, should we use the example of, like, you're a soap company, you're doing a few $1 million a year, you've obviously got product market fit. How do they know, is it bikers in North Dakota or hippie moms in Bay Area? Like, what should they be doing?
So that's one thing we do kind of a deeper dive in, is figure out those avatars, but also that position with that avatar, and then kind of go after the lowest hanging fruit. So like the soap one, for example, we know the avatars 45 to 55-year-old women that are kind of, lack of a better term, granola, and it kind of breaks down a little bit. So one of the biggest audiences there is Boulder. Boulder, for a media standpoint, it's not that expensive of a media market, not compared to LA, California, or New York, those type of places. So let's start there with some initial tests, and then kind of roll it. And when I say test too, it could be TV, it could be radio, it could be billboards, whatever it may be. And let's prove out those tests and be able to expand it into other markets that fit really well.
And if this was your company and you had, let's say you had a 5K test, or 5K in one, is it spread it 2,500 on TV, 2,500 on billboards, or are you putting it all towards TV or all towards billboards? What are you doing?
It depends, retail, service, that type of stuff. But I would say probably billboards and TV. The reason why it's billboard is you have TV for repetition. They see you on it. And ideally, you get a billboard next to that retail shop that you're in.
Yeah.
It's basic, more or less kind of points. It's like, hey, here's a product, buy it. And here's an arrow here. So that way they see you in the physical world as well as on the kind of, the TV world and the online world.
It kind of sounds too good to be true, right? Did people say that to you? It's like, I didn't know like I could do this as a small company or a challenger brand.
People always think it's super, super expensive. And like, it's not. Like, here's one thing. We talked about a baby bathwater a little bit.
Yeah. And then Baby Bathwater is a mastermind that we're both in. Awesome group.
Perfect. Like Super Bowl ads. During the Super Bowl, it's going to cost you, roughly speaking, $6 million to do a Super Bowl ad.
Crazy.
Nationwide.
Yeah.
During that same time, each local channel, this year it's on NBC. So each local NBC has to air a certain percentage of the commercials as local commercials.
Okay.
So what you can do is go into some of these smaller local markets, and instead of spending $6 million on a Super Bowl commercial, you can spend literally as low as $4,000 on a Super Bowl commercial. Now you have credibility because it's a Super Bowl commercial that it can get viral to a certain extent online when you push it out online, and it all just kind of flows. So yeah, when people say it's too good to be true, it's most of the time they just think you have to go national. TV's national, billboards national, radio, whatever. Like if you just segment it out at smaller and smaller markets where you know where you're at.
How are you keeping track of all this stuff? Is it, Google spreadsheets and scratch paper, or like what?
So part of it is just spreadsheets. So you can also invest in like brand awareness lift studies, if you will.
Okay.
Generally speaking, it's going to cost you $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 on up. Majority of clients we work with, like, it's not worth spending that much money. So we take a look at Google Analytics. If we do a billboard buy, so pick on us. Instead of like us putting our domain mollymarketing.com on a billboard, we'll put our domain outsourcetonebraska.com on a billboard. We do a TV buy, and it'd be bestagencytoworkwith.com, whatever it may be for TV. So each channel has their own unique domain. It all points back to the same website. You have to make any changes there. And then through UTM tracking in Google, we can see, X amount of people came from TV, came from radio.
That's
and
smart.
Especially, this is what they do once they come onto your site. So maybe radio sent a bunch of traffic, but they're not, buying anything. TV didn't spend as much traffic, but they're buying a crap ton. So now let's double down on TV.
I know when we're checking multi-channel, there's a lot of clicks, a lot of activity, but then at the end it's like nothing. No one spent anything or no one signed up.
Yeah,
that's what's important.
Exactly. Like what we always talk about, traffic is a vanity metric. The conversion is what you should be really focusing on. So that's what we always take a look at when we do these traditional buys, of what they do on the back end.
That's great. So what percent of your time, what percent of your agency is focused on kind of, traditional, what do you call offline versus online?
Yeah. So rough 60% is still online, 40% is more traditional. Honestly, over the next 12 months, I guarantee that's going to be flipped. The biggest thing is with rising costs online, it's going to price a bunch of people out of the market, period. They can't afford it. They have to figure out another solution. So I really do think it's going to swing back the other direction. Really,
and can it be ROAS or return on ad spend positive, from day one out of the gate? You run that 5K on TV, can you generate 10K in sales? Can you generate 15K in sales like you could during the heydays of Facebook?
You definitely can. Again, it generally just takes about a 30-day window to be able to connect the dots and see how it all looks.
Okay.
But you definitely can. Again, what we always take a look at the initial trend. What's that search demand look like for you? Is that increasing? Okay, what about the conversion rate? Is that static, up, down, whatever it may be? And then once we get enough data, then we know we can tweak that dial, turn that dial up, pull it back, and really just push it that much harder. So you can't sell a direct one-to-one, because it's not like I can click on the damn TV commercial and go to the site, but you should be able to start seeing trends really pretty quick.
And if it's working, is there any limit to inventory on that? Could you scale infinitely?
To a certain extent, yeah. There's not a whole lot of limit right now, mainly because so many people have pulled back because of COVID and because the digital world that we live in. A bunch of people took those budgets and we're moving elsewhere. We're going over here. So I had a question today. It's like, hey, if we want to start running TV commercials on November 1, like, can we do it? Or are we too late? I'm like, no, like we could probably, if we had to, gun held to our head, we could probably make that TV buy on October 31st and start running on November 1.
Right. And
Like,
so you say TV buy, are you going to a TV rodeo auction and like what does that look like from
good
your
question.
end?
So a couple different ways to do it. One is we can get it into it directly through Hulu if we want to go through that channel and make the buys directly through Hulu.
Okay.
Otherwise, there's a broker that we work with, and that broker gives us opportunities to get in with other markets, either streaming or cable, linear.
And what's your take, streaming or cable? Does it matter these days or?
It's a mix. So again, when I made the comment earlier on streaming, CPMs $25 to $30.
Yeah.
Cable, $7 to $8. And so it's a lot of times you want to be able to do a mix. We know that we're not going to hit as many people as we used to on the whole cable side of it.
Yeah.
And so we always want to balance it out with the streaming, but we also do enough cable buys to lower the overall ad cost on everything and make sure that we're looking at floats. It depends on your audience.
Seems like cable, you're putting on, you might be taking a nap, listening to stuff in the background, playing with a kid. Streaming seems like you're more actively engaged and you're like seeking it out.
It depends, because again, people, like for us, we don't have cable. We have Hulu Live. Same. And so it's the same type of story, is that we'll have Hulu Live on in the background, whatever channel is on, as we're playing with the kids, cooking supper, those type of things. So I completely agree. The average person lists or quote unquote watches 3.5 hours of TV a day.
Wow.
In reality, it's on for 3.5 hours in the background.
Okay.
So it's almost like a combo between the TV and radio, because you'll be able to hear it, but might not be like perfectly engaged.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so let's say now we're that brand, we added in TV, it's going. What next? What's next on that priority stack for them to look at to continue to grow as a brand?
So then we always just take a look at what are some additional channels we can add in. Is it print, niche print especially? Is it radio? Is it billboards or whatever? So there's studies that have been shown, and I can show it to you. I can send it your way. Awesome. That basically the question used to always be like, hey, should I do TV or billboard or TV or online? Generally the question or the answer is yes. Yes. Add channels. The more channels you add in, generally it's a 30% bump from one channel to the next, to the next, to the next. So it's not a 1 + 1 = 2 equation. It's 1 + 1 and many times it equals 3 to 4 type of equation. It's a multiplication effect, not an addition type of thing.
Yep.
So the more channels you can add in. And so the studies have shown basically up until you get to 10 channels, most people don't get to 10 channels unless you're a big brand. But until you get to 10 channels, your curve continues to go up. Then once you reach 10, then it plateaus and eventually kind of comes back down. But the more that you can add into that mix, is the more credibility you have, just period. The more that you can reach people in all kinds of different ways, the more they really kind of comes back.
And any case study or use case of a brand you've seen just nail it. Maybe they were just doing e-com or just small retail, and then they just kind of use this step ladder to add channels.
Yeah. So there's a couple of them. One of them, kind of top of mind, GoodRx did a really good job. They started with a huge amount on online and then TV. We worked with them actually on a billboard project and helped them do some testing in different markets for the billboard project. And they continue to see kind of rising, in their case, downloads, because it's an app and what that looks like. We've done it before. There's actually a mattress company that was largely online, started introducing some traditional. Around the same time, they started opening up some retail opportunities, and their online costs, cost to acquire a customer online dropped. I think that theirs was like 32%.
Wow.
So that came down quite a bit. Again, they're not making any changes. They're just introducing a whole new channel with it.
Wow. And why is that? It's like, I know it happens, but like, what's the science behind it, or what's the consumer behavior behind it?
It's costly signaling. Again, it's credibility. Now I see you everywhere. Now I feel like I can know, like, and trust you. Is if you're spending money in these places, you must be a legit company. Because people know inherently you can spend $10 on Facebook. People know that, and they know they're like, it doesn't have to be a real company because it's on, quote unquote, it's on the internet.
Yeah, I've been burned too many times with drop ship stuff from China.
Yep, exactly. But they're not spending money on anything traditional whatsoever. So once people see that, they're like, again, oh my God, this seems to
So
be really legit.
is this really an untapped niche that once people realize what can be done here, is this going to get swarmed? Like, are all the brands and e-commerce companies going to move to this?
To a certain extent, I mean, it all comes down to belief systems. And I know you run into that as well. It's like we hear it, oh, Facebook, that doesn't work. That's over here. Or like TV, nobody watches TV, or this or that. Like if we can show you data and stats, yeah, people are more than happy to shift. But sometimes the belief systems that people have, like, oh, no, that doesn't work. That's old school. So they're more interested in like results and data and stats. Yeah, there should be a pretty good shift over the top.
That's awesome.
If they still hold on to that aspect, like, hey, I just want to see if somebody clicks on an ad and I want to know they bought for me right now. You don't know that for a fact anyway.
Yeah. And that didn't exist previously either.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else that people should know? What are some other things that you've seen, brands that have made it over that, crossing the chasm jump, or brands that haven't? Well, I guess that's, there's always survivor bias, but what the brands that don't make it, that have product market fit but aren't able to scale, why are some of those reasons? What do they have in common?
From what we've seen, a lot of it comes down to positioning and messaging. Is they don't have the right position, or they don't have the right message to that audience, what they're trying to communicate, or they just have a hard time kind of communicating exactly what that is. That seems to be kind of that breakdown. One of the things that we take our clients through, and anybody can do this and it works out really well, is just select 10 to 15 of your clients, either clients or people that have told you no type of thing. And then just ask like 4 or 5 open-ended questions. I mean, maybe it's a 10-minute conversation, 15-minute conversation. Those open-ended questions and their language they tell you, just take that same language and use that in a lot of your marketing.
That's awesome. And what are some of those questions? What are the things you're trying to suss out?
So we always take a look kind of the before, the during, the after, especially our clients. So like, what was your experience like before you ever found us? Like, what was the pain points? They go through that whole thing. All right, once you found us, what was that kind of like? And then again, after the fact, what you know now that you didn't know before. And so that's just a good model too for testimonials.
Good UGC right there.
Oh my God, yeah, yeah, definitely. And so that's generally tends to be kind of the biggest downfalls of what we see as just position and messaging, but that's a good way to kind of get feedback from the marketplace in how to better position yourself.
So do this now, know thyself, like do this. You're a couple $1 million a year and you want to scale to 10x, you want to go to 50, 100 million. You really need to know why you made it to here before you can get to there.
Oh, exactly. And sometimes your message has to change. Depends if you're a $10 million company, $50 million company, or whatever, as you kind of grow. But at least it really kind of helps you hone in on what you got and be able to make that connection.
Love it. Steve, where can people find you? Closing words of wisdom. If you're starting a challenger brand, or you have a challenger brand, you got some traction, final word of wisdom, and then where can people find you?
Okay, well, final word of wisdom on that side of it. The biggest thing is everything is just a number. Marketing is just numbers that come back in. Sales are just numbers that come back in. So whatever your system is, if it's a CRM system, if it's Google Analytics, if it's Wicked Reports, if it's Amazon, if it's whatever, is just take a look at those as numbers and try to remove as much emotion from it as possible. Kind of the good, the bad, the ugly. Because if the numbers come back bad, it sucks. But all right, cool. We got numbers now. Let's figure out what we do to make changes. Numbers come back good. Awesome. Let's double down on some of this. But what we always talk about is while marketing and sales is we're trying to sell to emotional creatures, the data that comes back is very kind of black and white. So let's look at the numbers and make adjustments based on that.
Know your numbers. Awesome.
Yeah. Where people can find me, just malymarketing.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, just Maly Marketing, MALY Marketing, on that side of it. And I guess that's where people can find me.
Awesome. Thanks for dropping a ton of knowledge. Appreciate it. And catch us on our next episode of Behind the Stone.
If you really want to level up your e-commerce strategy, then watch this video next. It's called the 5 Proven E-commerce Marketing Strategies to 10x Your E-com Business. And you'll learn insider secrets from Tanner Tozan, our CEO, Adam Weiler, on how to scale 7- and 8-figure e-com businesses.